Are all religions the same? You need to love your friends, love your family, be a good neighbor, be a good citizen. Doesn't it all just kind of boil down to the same basic set of beliefs with maybe a few cultural quirks attached? You don't have to look very far to find that claim out there in the religious world about religious studies. But as Christians, we make a different claim. Here at the Mended Collective, we believe that Christianity is fundamentally different than any other world religion, philosophy, or self-help strategy. Let's take a look at why. The main thing, the thing that makes Christianity different than any other world religion, philosophy, or self-help strategy is Jesus Christ. He's the thing that sets it apart. As Christians, we don't believe that Jesus is just one of many teachers. There's some who believe that Jesus was a good moral philosopher, that he added a lot to the world of ethics, but beyond that, that's just sort of his legacy. We as Christians believe that the project of reforming, renewing, and recreating the entirety of the cosmos was initiated in Jesus Christ. We want to look at 3 reasons quickly why Jesus makes Christianity different. The first thing we want to look at today that makes Christianity different, that makes Jesus different from any other figure in world history, is his claims of exclusivity. If we want to look at a religion, any religion at all, and in particular for our purposes today, Christianity, we need to go to its source to see what it says about itself. What is it claiming? Well, if we read in the book of John, chapter 1, verse number 18, we read that no one has seen God at any time except the Son who is in the bosom of the Father, and he has declared the glory of the Father. In John 14, verse number 9, Jesus says that if anyone has seen him, they have seen the Father. And so the way that we understand God the Father is through seeing his Son, Jesus Christ. Notice in John 14, verse number 6, Jesus claims, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life, and no one comes to the Father but by me. So Jesus here claims to be exclusive. He claims to be the way to experience God. There are many who have claimed to have a way to experience the divine life of God, but Jesus is the only one who has participated in the divine identity and can offer us that insight and can offer us the way to get to God. So as we think about this, let's just examine this claim. Jesus claimed exclusivity. Does that match up with the claim that all religions are equally valid? Well, if we think about all the religions that exist in the world, and we say, well, they're all true. Well, Christianity is one of those religions, and Christianity is saying that it's the only one that's true. So this idea that Christianity is just as true as everything else falls on its face because Christianity claims to be the only true way to access God. The next thing we want to look at, reason number 2 why Christianity and Jesus is different than any other world religion, philosophy, or self-help strategy, is that Jesus conquered the grave. As we think about the importance of this, there's a couple things we want to see. The first thing is that just because Jesus claimed to give us access to the Father, just because Jesus claimed to participate in the divine identity, doesn't mean he was right. There's lots of people who have claimed to be God or to speak on behalf of God. Just saying that doesn't make you right. Jesus could have been a liar. He could have been delusional. And so how do we differentiate his claims from all the other claims of people who have said that they were God? Well, in Romans chapter 1, verse number 4, it tells us that Jesus was declared to be the Son of God. How? By the resurrection from the dead. The fact that God raised Jesus from the dead shows that Jesus is the person approved of by God the Father to reveal the Father himself to us. Now, we don't have time in this video today to talk about the resurrection of Jesus Christ and to prove those claims. I would invite you to check out the rest of the Mended Collective's library on those. We'll have lots of topics on that, so go look at those videos. But we're going to take that as a fact, that the biblical authors say that Jesus rose from the dead, and that makes him different. That means that he is in no way like any other of the world-leading figures in the religious world. Why else does this matter? Why else does it mean that Jesus is separate and Jesus is distinct and Christianity is distinct from all other world religions? Well, if we think about it, the fact that Jesus has been raised from the dead means that Jesus has conquered the grave. Think about that for a moment. How many people do you know that have been raised from the dead? Have you ever seen that happen before? I've never seen it happen before. It's something that on our own abilities is impossible. But the fact that Jesus conquered the grave means that with God, all things are possible. If we think about self-help strategies and philosophies, a lot of reasons they fail, a lot of reasons that they don't bring about lasting change, is because it puts the burden of change completely on us. The only ability we have to change is how much our self-determination can allow us to. And what's going to happen is eventually that burden to change is going to crush us. We'll see that we're not making progress, we'll get discouraged, and we'll believe that change is impossible. Many in the world today and many thinkers have said that true change is really impossible. But as Christians, we believe something completely different. We believe that the Spirit of God that raised Christ from the dead lives in us. And that means there is a power in us that is different than any other power in the world. It means that as Christians, we can have true change, that we can be healed and restored and renewed and mended to be whole as God calls us to be and be His sons and daughters. The third and final reason that we want to look at today for why Christianity is different is that Jesus is Lord and Jesus is Judge of all the world. What does that mean? It means that in Jesus being resurrected from the dead, it means that God has given him a name that is above every name. As we read in Philippians chapter 2, because Jesus humbled himself to the point of death, it means that now as he has been resurrected, God has appointed him as King of the universe. Jesus is in charge of everything. And as Christians, we announce this and we declare this. Why does this matter? Well, if we think about people who are in charge of us, people who we submit to, people we follow, maybe our parents, our bosses, or even people who we think are influential in the way that they think, none of them are perfect. All of them have faults. All of them have failed. And so we can begin to justify to ourselves that we don't really have to listen to them because they've done things wrong too and they're not perfect and we just really don't have to listen to them, and we can justify this to ourselves. With Christianity, we can't make that claim. Jesus was perfect, Jesus is King, and Jesus is Lord. And so as Christians, we ground ourselves in that reality. We cannot have Christianity without announcing and declaring that Jesus Christ is King of everything and that He is King of our lives and King of our actions. Why does this help us bring about real and lasting change? Why is this different from some self-help philosophy? Well, it's because when we look to change, a lot of times when we do it after the standard of the world, after philosophies and things like this, our ability to change is only enabled by our desire to change. And eventually we'll do that change for a little while, but at some point we're going to say, I don't like doing this as much as I would. And so we'll give up and fail. With Christianity, we as Christians are submitting ourselves to the Lordship of Jesus Christ. We're declaring that He is in charge and that we are not. And so there's no room for us to say and to nitpick and say, well, I should do this, or, well, I really don't have to do that. We can't pick and choose. Because as Christians, we remove ourselves from the equations. We are no longer in charge, but Jesus is, and He gets to pick what we do. And that brings about real and lasting change. Because Jesus was a servant and He calls us to serve in the same way, to deny ourselves and to follow Him in true discipleship. Thanks so much for taking a look at this video on 3 reasons why Christianity is different. Ultimately, we ground ourselves in the person of Jesus Christ, in His existence and His work, in His life, His death, His resurrection, and His exaltation to the right hand of God the Father. We believe that Jesus is different because He claimed to be exclusive. He did not claim to be one of many moral teachers, but He claimed to be the only way to access the Father. We believe that that truth was vindicated in the fact that He was raised from the dead, and we believe that He now reigns as Lord. And so we're left with the question of what are we going to do with this? Are we going to renounce ourselves? Are we going to deny what we want to do and serve Jesus and announce Him as Lord? Or are we going to serve ourselves? Are we going to follow after what we want to do? Friends, I would invite us to consider this decision, to realize that often when we serve ourselves, it leads to pain and brokenness and despair, and we're left to pick up the pieces of our poor decisions. So friends, I would invite you to submit to the Lordship of Jesus Christ, for at His right hand is fullness of joy, and it's a life that no one else can offer.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to make sure you don't miss any videos from the Mended Collective. Do you have any questions or anything you'd like to add about the subject? If you do, leave those comments along with suggestions for future content. Thanks again.